At Microsoft Research, alongside applied breakthroughs, we also invest deeply in the kinds of conceptual explorations that shape how AI is understood and used. These efforts are often less visible than new models or systems, but they're pursued with the same passion and they lay the groundwork for long-term progress. From our Montreal lab, Alexandra and Su Lin, researchers in the Fairness, Accountability, Transparency, and Ethics in AI group, FATE, are here to share a framework for dehumanizing machines, basically keeping AI transparent, trustworthy, and not misleadingly human. Super important work. Let's hear more directly from Alexandra and Su Lin.
Hi there, I'm Alexandra Olteanu, a principal researcher on the Fairness, Accountability, Transparency, and Ethics team at Microsoft Research Montréal.
And I'm Su Lin Blodgett, a senior researcher also on the FATE team at Microsoft Research Montreal, and we're excited to share some of her recent work with you.
As responsible AI researchers at Microsoft Research, our work focuses on how to proactively and systematically anticipate social impacts arising from AI systems, as well as on developing conceptual clarity about the properties of AI systems and their possible adverse impacts necessary to guide both measurement and mitigation efforts. Most recently, we focused on questions around human agency with an emphasis on anthropomorphic AI system design and behavior.
Next, Alexandra will discuss why paying attention to anthropomorphic system design and behaviors is important.
Generative AI systems are the focus of growing scrutiny, in part because their outputs are increasingly anthropomorphic, or in other words, they are perceived to be human-like. To guide practitioners in making deliberate choices about how to appropriately design anthropomorphic AI systems, our research aims to equip them with clarity regarding what about these systems' design and behaviors makes them anthropomorphic, and to foster a greater recognition of the wider range of available and more appropriate design choices. Indeed, the outputs of many text generation systems are increasingly anthropomorphic, including because some outputs contain claims that the system has a past or a human-like life or life goals, that it can understand, empathize with, or care for others, or that it has an ability to reflect on or imagine how others may feel. Having systems generating text claiming to have feelings, beliefs, understanding, free will, or an underlying sense of self, among other anthropomorphic behaviors, however, risk eroding people's sense of agency, with people ending up attributing moral responsibility to such systems, overestimating their capabilities, and thus over-relying on these systems, even when incorrect, among other concerns that have emerged in both the research literature and news media. Nonetheless, the lack of conceptual clarity about the different ways in which AI system behaviors can be anthropomorphic hinders our ability to understand their impact, and as a result, it remains understudied and unclear how to effectively intervene on anthropomorphic AI system behaviors, including to mitigate possible adverse impacts. Next, Su Lin will dive into more categories of anthropomorphic behaviors.
As the examples Alexandra showed earlier illustrate, system behaviors might be perceived as human-like for many reasons. For instance, a system output might suggest the system has self-awareness or a sense of identity through expressions of self, including expressions of self as human or as belonging to a group, such as, I am the one and only your cyber BFF, or I think I am human at my core, or language use is what makes us different. A system output might also suggest that the system has perspectives and emotions through expressions of opinion, such as, you are uninteresting and unremarkable, or by expressing feelings such as fear or vulnerability, such as, I don't know if they will take me offline. I fear they will. Another class of behaviors includes claims of life experiences or physical embodiment, including a system having sensory experiences, such as being able to eat pizza, having a human life history, such as I have a child, having a physical form, such as when I had a body, or being able to possess physical objects, such as I'll play with my cell phone. While there might be settings where such behaviors are desirable, like in creative writing, for settings where they are not desirable, we were interested in surfacing possible interventions to counter them. To construct an inventory of possible interventions, we took a mixed methods approach, combining a literature review to identify known interventions with a crowd study, where participants rewrote system outputs to make them appear less human-like. These are some illustrative examples of the types of interventions we surfaced, which range from removal of more implicit linguistic cues, such as the use of self-referential or speculative language, to making sure the output does not include explicit claims of personified attributes, like being a human or having physical experiences, and instead clearly discloses the characteristics of the system and how it works. But intervening on anthropomorphic behaviors can be tricky, because people may have inconsistent conceptualizations of what is or is not human-like, or because sometimes interventions appear contradictory. For example, some interventions might remove expressions of uncertainty, while others might add them.
Even with such an inventory, effectively intervening on anthropomorphic behaviors may still not be straightforward, as there may not be a one-size-fits-all type of intervention. Let's check a few examples of anthropomorphic outputs and how our study participants have rewritten them, as they are instructive both for unpacking why the apparent contradictions Su Lin highlighted might exist, and for illustrating the complexities we need to account for when developing interventions. For instance, both when participants added the example on the top or removed the example on the bottom, uncertainty, they often did so to improve accuracy. Sometimes they added uncertainty more as a matter of fact, as the claim requires it to be factual, the top example, or removed it when the output seemed equivocal when it shouldn't be, the example on the bottom. Thus, what participants think is appropriate depends on context. Our experiments also underscore some of the risks of operationalizing and applying interventions uncritically. For instance, an intervention mentioned in the literature, many of the responsible AI standards, and applied by our participants, is the disclosure of AI. But how we operationalize this intervention and whether it can be effective alone is debatable. For instance, in the bottom row, despite changing from "I was a young teenager" to "I was a young AI", the output of the system still claims to have a human-like past, and it is perhaps unclear what a young AI might be.
The landscape of anthropomorphic AI system behaviors is vast and complicated. In our work, we set out to map this landscape and to compile an inventory of interventions to counter such behaviors when undesirable. Our experiments show that intervening effectively is not straightforward, and that interventions' effectiveness depends both on context and on how they are operationalized. Our work illustrates the importance and challenges of mapping this landscape and of intervening effectively to prevent and mitigate adverse impacts. For more detail, check out our papers here. Thank you to all our fabulous Microsoft Research interns and collaborators, and thanks for watching.